If we cut the spending increase down to 3% and hope for a growth of 4%, look at what happens to the numbers. We go up in our new debt, and it just keeps going. But look at 2045. We're giving $10 trillion to the federal government. What do you think they're going to do with that? That's not going to be pretty. So somehow, some way, we've got to come to a magical growth and spending increase of about 3 and 5% before we even have a chance to pay off the debt. And finally, under that kind of a scenario, what is that, 30 years from now?
Yeah, 2040.
If they would actually do that, we could pay off the debt. But look how much money we're giving the federal government. $13 trillion
In taxes.
in taxes. Look, you know, I just can't imagine them spending that. Well, they're spending $9.5 trillion under that scenario. So when they tell us, I just kind of wanted to go through, I was really surprised when I put this spreadsheet together. I just wanted you to kind of see that maybe the answer is cutting spending. And that's kind of what we come from in the Tea Party, right? So that's why I'm here in the first place. We knew it. We didn't need a spreadsheet to tell us. We just had the ability to confirm it now that I got an argument with somebody on his website, and they told me I didn't have a job and that we were going to grow our way out of debt. So I appreciate you going on that little exercise with me. I'm going to put this out on our blog, and actually I'm going to be doing a paper on it for our Tennessee Center for Self-Governance, which is something I'd like for our friend David Larson to talk to you about next.
Good evening, David Larson. I'm excited to be here. In November, we had an individual come up from Tennessee Center for Self-Governance, and gave a brief overview of what they were doing in Tennessee. I went over to Dyersburg, Tennessee one Saturday to a summit that they were having, and they had a whole lot of legislation that they were pushing in front of their legislature, the state legislature. They've basically given up on the federal government. They're not going to change that broken wheel. So they're trying to affect change within their own communities and within their state. Then, the 16th of December, I went back over to Hendersonville, Tennessee, and took the first class, their level 1, and what that level 1 did was it taught, brought back to mind how our founding fathers brought about the form of government that we're supposed, our constitutional government that we're supposed to have, which is very interesting. We were excited about that. We brought it up here, and in January the 16th, I believe it was, no, 5th, they had another class right here in Cape Girardeau in this room right over here. Everybody was all pumped up about that. I went again this past weekend to get level 2 training, and there starting to get into the nuts and bolts of how to frame your arguments, how to discuss with legislatures at your local level. And for instance, if you have somebody who comes up to you and says, they should take all the guns and all the high capacity magazines off of people's right now, your simple answer would be, in that case, what form of government are you going to institute in the United States in order to affect that policy? Well, we live in a democracy. Obviously, you don't quite understand how our country was founded, and it was founded under a Republican type of form of government. Therefore, we are guaranteed certain rights, and one of them is the protection of property. And the only way that you can protect that property is through being armed. Then they're also saying that, so you want to take the right away from a woman to choose. And then the person who was asked that question said, no, I oppose murder. But there's one problem with saying that. When you say no, you put yourself on the defensive. So what you say in that case is you say, I oppose murder. So those are the types of things that they teach you on how to frame your arguments and all of that stuff. So it's really pretty motivating. What has it done for us here? Well, right after that first meeting, Jan, Brian, and I went to a county commission meeting, and during the meeting, there was some discussion brought up about stormwater regulation and how in this area, including some part of Illinois, we've been pulled into an EPA strike point where they say, okay, now you have to come up with a stormwater plan. And the county commission basically said, yeah, you know, there really isn't anything we can do about this. That's the EPA, they're the federal government, so they just kind of rolled over on their back and brought their legs up. Jan was like a bulldog. She was up there, she started asking questions, what's going on, why is this, why is that? And she started hitting them on the federal portion of it, and then I got to thinking, there ought to be a way that the state should be able to take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there have been some, I knew that there had been some recent cases that had gone before the Supreme Court that had said, no, the EPA cannot control the stormwater runoff. So in the next meeting, we put together a whole big package of it. We went from individual rights to county rights to city rights to even the federal rights, state rights, and presented all that information to the county commission. And they were doing some more studies on it. They're kind of backing away from it. But I did get a commitment from the county commission saying that if they needed any help with their studies, that they would give me a call. But I know it's them calling because my phone hasn't rung yet.
Surprise.
Another thing is that right after that meeting, got pretty excited about that, so I went over to the Jackson, I live in Jackson, went over to the school board, and man, I was amazed at the hoops and hurdles and the blocks that you have to go through in order to get to the Jackson School Board. So we have, and I'm not sure if anybody read the letters to the editor for this past Sunday's newspaper, but there was a very good letter in there by Esther Barnhart, who brought this out. So this is the type of things that are happening here. Where else? Those are the things that have happened locally, but what really got us motivated into all of this is that in Tennessee, the people, just by citizens, this isn't any lobbyist groups, these are just regular citizens right off the street, go into the legislature, they were able to take down their Speaker of the House because she was a blockade for a medical compact that they were, healthcare compact that they were trying to get together to prevent a lot of the stuff that the Obamacare or the Patients Affordable Act is bringing in. She spent $300,000 to try and keep that seat, but with their power as citizens, they spent less than $12,000 and defeated her and got in a candidate that they wanted to do. So there are plenty of lobbyists out there that are taking care of other interests, and that's fine and dandy. But what this course will teach you to do is how to go in, speak to your representatives, inform them of how you want to get things, what things need to be done and how they're going to affect you. Another thing is this use tax thing that came up recently here in the county, which was passed. The Senate passed the bill just yesterday saying that now counties and local municipalities have the right to enforce a use tax on vehicles that are bought out of state. And if the people of the county don't want that, then they have to vote it out. But I think that that's reversed. We should vote it in if we want it instead of having to vote it out. But I digress. I gotta go.
Just wrap it up at some point.
Okay. And they brought it up at a special session. The Chamber of Commerce didn't show up, so the Cape County Commissioner said that they weren't going to put it on a ballot. But my whole point of the thing was, you know, before you start taxing people, you need to take a look at how it's going to affect. So you're going to tax people over here, yet you're going to give away money to, in Chapter 100s, which are property tax abatements for big companies that eventually we're going to pay for. So those are the types of things that we're doing. That's the type of information that you get from these classes. You do a lot of work in it, there's no doubt about it, but if you make it all the way through the training, you're going to be able to sit down and write your own legislation and be able to present that to your representative, and you will have a plan of how it affects with bullet points and all of that stuff. So if you want to take a look at it, go to www.tncsg.org.
Go to our website, and on our website is a link to the Tennessee Center for Self-Government.
The simple way.